Good Tuesday morning, everybody. Hello, I'm Molly Karam. Stephen A. Max Kellerman will be here on Monday, but in very good hands. Jonathan Coachman, the coach, and Max Bretos here today. What's up, guys?
You know what? We had such rave reviews from yesterday that as I'm driving the bar, we set the bar too high for ourselves?
I think we set the bar too high.
We may have done that. So I'm driving to Boston last night, hanging out with Big Papi and David Ortiz and doing our thing.
Big time.
Yeah, dropping names. And I thought to myself, I think we can be even better tomorrow.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what we're going to attempt to do today.
No guarantees for Wednesday because I have to go to Boston tonight for the Guns N' Roses show with Grisham. And I'm going to do my best to behave. Word is they get on stage late. I would have canceled it but that came before his.
This is important.
You guys are so big
Gillette
time.
Stadium.
Well, we
After
kind
the
of
show,
are.
I go to work out, try to get in shape, and get online. You
This
know?
is rare. This
you
is
guys
rare for
are
me.
just out and about.
This is rare for me. I
No,
can
we
go
are.
home and do nothing.
It's kind of part of the reason we're here is because we're so big time.
Yeah. So you're going to bring it.
Let's go.
I'm shooting for mediocre so
We're
I can
gonna
meet
hand-
expectations, and you guys are really going for it. So we will try to deliver. Thank you
All
for
right.
being with us. Coming up, two special guests, Nick Saban, the head coach of the reigning champion Alabama Crimson Tide. He will be here. You all know him. In Texas A&M's Kevin Sumlin. So be sure to stick around for that. But we tip things off in the association. And where else to start? Kevin Durant. He shared the court with his new teammates. This sounds crazy to say. Draymond Green and Klay Thompson as members of the U.S. Olympic team on Monday. Durant discussing how much Russell Westbrook's play influenced his decision.
No, it wasn't. I mean, obviously coming out now I'm gone. All these reports are going to come out, but I can't really control it, but I just made a decision based on, where I want to go, man. It was simple as that. We can, think about, all the reasons and factors, what factored in, but it's just simple. That's why I wanted to play basketball.
Have you and Russ got to talk?
No, not really, not in depth, but I'm sure that'll happen at some point.
I hear Ramona Shelbourne's voice. She does a great
Stop
job
drilling those
for us.
basketballs. I can't
By the
hear
way.
anything.
Coach, does Durant owe Westbrook an explanation?
I've been on record as saying, what I had to.
And the throat clearing.
Yeah, I had to get ready. As saying that I believe that Kevin Durant is such a special talent that when you're in the rarefied air that Kevin Durant lives in and has been blessed with, then you have a duty and a responsibility to keep whatever competitive power there is in the NBA the way that it should be. So I hated the fact that he decided to go to Golden State. With that being said, that's a different discussion. What this discussion is about is imagine if you and I, 6 days a week, Max and the coach, and all of a sudden I decided to go somewhere else, do something else, and I didn't call you. I didn't have the decency to say, hey, Max, this is what I'm thinking about doing.
Happens all the time.
It does happen. Doesn't mean that it's right.
No.
It's, as somebody else on the show likes to say, so disrespectful.
It is.
Because you're talking about the greatest 1-2 punch in the NBA in the last 5 to 10 years. These two guys average 25 to 30 points a game. We've seen what they can do individually, but together they were dynamic and one game away from the NBA Finals again. And to not even have a conversation, to not even pick up the phone at any point when he's meeting with 6 different teams, to talk to your guy, your point guard, and then to say on record that the way he played had nothing to do with the fact that I wanted to leave town. The two things don't match up. He 100% owed him a phone call. He still owes him a phone call.
I think it'd be nice to give him that phone call. He doesn't owe him that. I think a lot of time, look, in perfect world, you'd like to see it. I think he knows he's making a huge decision, and he said it in some of the things that he referred to that I was worried about going out because I don't know how the reaction was going to be in Oklahoma City. So he had to keep it very incubated, and I understand that. That doesn't mean he can't reach out to Russell Westbrook, but maybe he doesn't want to hear what Russell Westbrook has to say. Maybe he doesn't want to hear that he could probably lure him and convince him to stay here. He had to make a decision based on his own laurels. He had to make that decision on what he's heard from people outside of that situation as best he could. The style of play that Russell Westbrook has, he says that's not part of the reason that he left. So at least we know that. So with what we heard here, although it wasn't very good because it was at the gym and a lot of basketballs being dribbled and lots of noise on the outside, we didn't get the clearest thing. But they didn't really talk about anything at all. It doesn't mean they won't talk at some point. But he has to make this decision. He has been very secretive. He is, for obvious reasons, because this is the biggest decision of his career. So Russell Westbrook, I imagine that's going to come on the back end. If you left me after 6 days, you didn't call me, that'd be a little different because at this point we finish each other's sentences. We're again so far. May not be the exact comparison, but I think they'll have that. But at this point, the decision was paramount, and he made that first.
If we're supposed to believe him that he crossed every T, dotted every I, and he put everything out in front of him as best that he could, then not having this conversation with Russell Westbrook, he did not do that for Oklahoma City because he owed it to the team, to the franchise, has made him who he is today, to say, what would the future look like in Oklahoma City? And one of the big components to him staying would be if he knew that Russell Westbrook was going to stay also for an extended period of time. If you don't talk to him, you have no idea where his head is at. So to me, Oklahoma City was never in the equation if he didn't talk to Russell Westbrook.
That is very fair. And with regard, maybe he looks at Russell Westbrook as part of the paradigm of Oklahoma City. And we saw it with LeBron James when he left Cleveland. Once he left, he became the enemy. And I don't think it's been that much vitriol from Oklahoma City to Durant. They still respect him and they appreciate what he did. But he probably looked at that and he realized this is a huge decision. This is going to change everything. The image I have in Oklahoma City, Russell Westbrook is part of that. I'm going to make the cut, and then I'm going to take care of business, settle in my new surroundings, and then if I have to clear the air, I will do it then.
Does this not reek of everything opposite what we've thought about Kevin Durant for the first decade of his career?
It's a crazy business
Well,
now,
we think
with
about
the money and everything we've heard.
Here's the thing. This is what makes me think of, and this might be a bad example, but the Kelly Ripa and Michael Strahan. Now, this is a business, right? We're all a part of a business. So there's certain things we have to keep confidential, or I like to say private, until it's shared through the proper channels.
Sure.
So in terms of business, you have to keep it close to the vest. You're negotiating. You can't share all the details. I might love you to death, Coach, but I can't share it with you yet until, I've signed the dotted line. But with that being said, once that decision is made, you can let Westbrook know first before you're letting the public know. And I know nothing about the Kelly Ripa Strahan situation, not close to it at all whatsoever, but supposedly that was the beef. So I can let you know first and then let it go public. So what that shows me, which everybody said all along, they're not that tight.
Nope.
Exactly.
Abundantly clear.
This is a true story. So when Brock Lesnar announced that he was going to UFC 200, I have a very good relationship with the WWE. 7 text messages, 3 phone calls. I got nothing back. Now, after the fact, I find out that they had promised Dana White they would not say anything until the announcement was made. I said I need to be armed with the information on how he was allowed to fight in the UFC when he was under WWE contract. I needed to know, not to break the story, but to be educated on when the time came. Kevin Durant should have been educated, and this was a big piece of that puzzle. I think you're spot on. They're not as tight as we want to believe they were, even though there's this dynamic duo.
I like what you bring up about personal situations, as you did. I left Fox, I came to ESPN. When I did that, I severed a lot of cables. I've been able to fix those in the back end. When we do that, things change. I've left representation I've had in this business, guys I'm very close with, and when that happens, no phone calls, no nothing, it stops. It doesn't mean you don't think any less of them, but in this situation, this business, whatever it might be, that's the reality of it. And it's cold-blooded sometimes, but that's the way it goes.
It's 100% cold-blooded. But this, to me, supersedes all of that. That goes above all of that. We're talking about 2 of the 5 greatest players in the NBA today. And to not have a phone call, to me, is almost unforgivable if I am Westbrook.
Life goes on.
Yeah, and again, speculation here with the examples we gave because we don't know the actual true details. But I'm fine with him making his decision, that kind of thing. But so did he find out about this publicly like everybody else? That's what I just want to be clear about.
And if he did, you mean Westbrook?
Yeah.
If he did, I think that had been a very tough pill to swallow. And I think I would have loved to have seen the reaction, the real reaction when he found out. Because if he found out like everybody else on ESPN, then to me, that's even worse than before.
There's probably something else at play here, but clearly there's a detachment between these two. We saw the warm, cuddly moments where they stood up for each other during the playoffs, which was nice. But for the bigger portion of their career together, they were not aligned. They were not in symphony.
No.
So, and this is clearly evident of that.
Yeah, clearly this was a business decision. All right, moving on, though, another business decision ahead of us. Just like Kevin Durant this year, Russell Westbrook can leave OKC a year from now, and the Thunder would get this, nothing in return. According to Anthony Slater of the Oklahoman, Westbrook has given the Thunder no indication that he currently wants out, and one source described him as ticked off about the KD departure. He's focused for this new challenge and eager for the start of the season. Max, what should Westbrook do now?
Here's a chance to be the knight in shining armor for Russell Westbrook, because we talk about Durant and Westbrook and we forget who's in the middle. This franchise, which was a win away from the NBA Finals, potentially winning the NBA Finals if you listen to Andre Iguodala. And here's a team that could be teared to shreds because of what happened first with Durant. They're already in a bad position with that. But now Russell Westbrook comes in. He's from L.A. Hey, I'm from L.A. If I was at his level, I'd love to be a Laker. I'd love to play there. Maybe the Celtics are a team you could do in there. Hey, you go to the Eastern Conference, you become that second big star in the East, get away from all those superstars in the Western Conference. But at Oklahoma City, you get to be that hero. You get to be that hero that we've seen has worked so well with LeBron James when he came back to Cleveland and won that. It's positive that he has said, I haven't made a decision on it yet. He hasn't ruled out Oklahoma City. But I think not only can he be the hero there, there's enough at Oklahoma City where he can be a player. Who knows what they do with this Durant money? Maybe they can
be a player.
They can be a player.
The player.
He could be a player, but they could be a player in the Western Conference.
I see.
The supporting cast is good. They've done well. We saw them in the postseason with Steven Adams. Now they have Victor Oladipo coming in, but there's some really good pieces there with him as a centerpiece. You need another guy there. It's not going to be a Kevin Durant, but this could be salvageable in some way, and he could be that hero. That's two good reasons to stay.
The reason I love Russell Westbrook so much is that he is an emotional beast. He's a lion, heart of a lion. And he's a guy that a couple of years ago when Kevin Durant had the injury issues, who was the guy that went out there every single night, seemingly with an endless amount of energy, getting triple-doubles night after night after night, almost getting the team single-handedly into the playoffs. If I'm him, I have to look at it and say, yeah, I'm ticked off. I can be the guy that you can build your franchise around. Now, maybe it's because I was born and raised in the Midwest. Maybe I was 2 hours away from Oklahoma City. But it's a great city to play in. Playing in Oklahoma where you are the show. It is the Sooners, 20 miles away, and then it's the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's it. To me, that's very conducive to wanting to be great. That's why I was shocked when KD decided to leave. And if I'm Russell Westbrook, and I'm looking at all of my options, I don't want to go to L.A. and lose. I don't want to go to L.A. just to say I can play at the Staples Center if I'm going to turn into the last 2 or 3 years for Kobe Bryant.
They might be good in a couple years.
Okay, you just made my point for me. They might be good in a couple of years. But I agree with the fact he should be ticked off. And when he gets ticked off and he's angry, boy, does he play great. And that's the kind of guy that I want. I want a guy that comes up every single night and wants to step on your throat. And for me, as much as I love Kevin Durant, his decision made me believe that he's not that kind of a player, and he's never going to be that kind of a player.
Says he's ready for the challenge. What bigger challenge than to pick up this franchise? It's in a really tough spot. And all this time, and we saw the community outreach from Kevin Durant, we said this guy is aligned with Oklahoma City. This is the hero of the city. Well, he's no longer in Oklahoma City. We always thought Russell Westbrook would be the guy to go.
When you leave a city like, you're right, when you leave a city like L.A. or New York and there's so many other things going on, people aren't as upset or they don't hang on to it for a long time. This is going to sit.
Of course, any quote-unquote smaller market.
Right. And I asked you the other day, we need to keep checking on his restaurant, Molly, because there's no way it stays in business because these people take this personally. They do, and they should. They put their time, effort, love, heart, soul into this guy. That's how Russell Westbrook plays. That's why, to me, they're a perfect match. And I don't care what the other options are. He's a perfect match for them.
I know you guys want him to stay, but if he was to leave, what do you think's the best fit for him right now?
I like the Lakers fit. I like the Lakers fit.
Don't say it.
You've got...
Just because you love L.A.
Well, I just love...
Take out that he wants to play there. Take out that he wants to play there. Where's really the best place for him to go?
The Los Angeles Lakers. I think he's got some good young players that he could mold. He could be the guy who leads it. This is a team on the up and up. So I know it's Summer League. We've seen some sparks out of D'Angelo Russell. All signs, Brandon Ingram, we saw it his year in college. He has that big man ability that I think Russell Westbrook could be. in good tandem.
Say that
with.
again. I want to make sure we have that on record, Molly. He literally just said, this is a team on the up and up.
With Russell Westbrook, they certainly would. Where do you go outside of Golden State and Cleveland? It's a no-win situation now. Patience and time is on your side. Spurs is obviously a very good option. I don't know. I mean,
are they a team that's on the up and up?
I don't know. Yeah, I like when you have two guys. I like when you have two guys calling the shots as star players. He would be one of a three-way with Aldridge and Kawhi Leonard. I think that could be a little congested for that. So that's just why I don't think that's the ideal position. Patience here is a good spot for Russell Westbrook. You want to be in L.A., that is a big positive, and you're playing with a nice young group. I think it could end well.
You bring up Boston, and the thing about Brad Stevens that a lot of people don't realize, he's very much a player's coach. And he proved it at Butler, getting the absolute most out of the talent from his squad there in college. And now that one of the best things that he did was sign that long-term contract, so he didn't have to worry about getting fired 2 years in. He signed a 6-year deal. So now if you get a Russell Westbrook to lead what is a hungry young squad with Al Horford now inside, that's not he's not a player that needs the ball a lot, but he can certainly score 15 to 20 points a game. Horford, yeah. I think that would be a terrific fit for Westbrook.
So let's be honest.
That's
huge. Obviously, we know Cleveland's there, but I'm just saying in terms of getting there.
You'd become the second best team just like that. And you'd be in a city that loves their sports stars.
Of course.
Like I said, I was there last night. You see it. You feel it. You feel the love radiating from them onto you. Wow, I think that'd be a really, really cool fit.
What happens to a guy Isaiah Thomas? Would there be probably not room for him in that group for the Boston Celtics? So you take a little bit step back. I don't know. I mean, that's a crowded backcourt. You got Avery Bradley as well in there. Who gets to play on that Celtics team?
Last time I checked, you got to have 3 or 4.
Let me throw one more angle at you. I asked you what was the best fit. If he wants a ring, what is the best fit? Where does he go? And he wants a ring.
If he wants a ring, find a way to become a Cavalier. But I think realistically, is the Spurs find a way to be? Obviously, that's an impossibility. I think the Spurs is probably, for an immediate chance, the best. But I don't think it's a great chance. I think it's a better chance than most. But I err on the side of finding somewhere you can grow with that team.
Best chance, you stay in Oklahoma City. They've got a lot of still nice young talent. And we forget they made that team better with the trade before KD decided to leave. They're not that bad of a team. Not as good without him. But to me, for him, that's the best option I believe he has to try and win a championship.
So you're both Team OKC right now.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of guys that work for him on that team. They'll say, we'll do the dirty work for you. We'll clean up some messes here. We'll get you second, third shots if we can.
Nick Collison.
And that is a real positive for a guy like Russell Westbrook. But then again, they're going to take a dip. Still a good playoff team, a 4-5 team in the West.
Less than a week. Can't wait. Meanwhile, the Nevada State Athletic Commission extended a temporary suspension for John Jones on Monday and revealed 2 banned substances the UFC star tested positive for in the process. Jones took to Twitter saying he isn't a cheater. Don't write me off just yet. I know in my heart that I'm not a cheater. I trust in the system to help me prove it. One fan responding by saying, huge fan, man, but what you took is proven to cover steroid use, to which Jones responded, you're absolutely right, man. I learned that myself over the last week, but it doesn't mean you actually took steroids. Not trying to come across a victim. If anything, I'm a victim of my own ignorance. And yes, this could have been prevented. Coach, do you believe Jones?
I always base because we're in the business of being around people that do good things and bad things, and how I base who I like and who I trust is how they treat me. And I'm a huge John Jones fan. I have been in contact with his camp, and they're telling me as of right now everything is status quo. They're looking at everything he took being analyzed, and they're awaiting the results. I believe him. I was standing 20 feet eye to eye to him when he came out the Thursday morning of the week of UFC 200. And he was very emotional. He cried. And what he did that was such a huge mistake. And to this day, I don't know his thought process. But he even said here, not trying to come across as a victim. If anything, I'm a victim of my own ignorance. He literally said to us, as we're asking him these questions, and I appreciated the fact that he was very open and he was allowed to answer questions instead of just reading a prepared statement. But what he said was this: I've never intentionally cheated. And so for that reason, since in my head I wasn't cheating, I didn't bother to write down what I was taking. That to me is all-time dumb in today's society, in today's competition, especially when you know USADA is a part of what the UFC is trying to do now. It's as simple as picking up the phone, calling a number and saying, listen, this is what I am taking. Can I do it? Or picking up their book, which is this thick, and opening it. It's not always about cheating to cheat. It can be about, I was taking this thing, I just didn't know it was in there, but guess what? The end result is the same. The answer to the question, yes, I believe him. I don't think he was trying to cheat, but he did get popped for something that was illegal, and for that, he has to pay, and he's finally owning up to that.
I want to believe him. Met him many times. He is upstanding, engaging, a wonderful guy. When he's here at ESPN, gives you his time freely. Top-notch individual when we dealt with him. I think it's important to bring up, he fought at UFC 197. Did not fail any tests. USADA was in company with UFC. He was supposed to fight Cormier. It didn't happen. Cormier got injured. One thing leads to another. A bad serendipitous run. He is now at UFC 200, and he fails a test. The thing you have to remind yourself is, what was it, 40 fighters over 3 days at UFC 200?
Yeah.
They all came out, well, with Brock Lesnar, that's the one exception. We'll see what happens with him. But every card that happens, these guys all play by the rules, and they make sure they have these clean tests. Do I want to believe him? Yes, because it is dumbfounding when you think of the damage he created. Obviously for UFC, this was their biggest card ever. This was to be it, and they had to scramble to get a new main event. The fight they got for Cormier wasn't a good one on the back end, in my estimation. Then he does a major disservice to Daniel Cormier, who has been training. We saw the reaction with Dana White, how much he has been waiting to prove himself to potentially beat the man that has stood between him and being one of the great light heavyweights of all time. But the biggest disservice is John Jones, because on top of all of this, we go back to the DUIs and the recreational drug use, and he had to overcome that. And here he is at 200. We're ready to say, okay, he's back. Maybe the most dominant fighter in UFC history, and this happens. Estrogen blockers, not really a big deal. We talked to our friend Chael Sonnen, and he says this stuff pops up. It's not a steroid, but it is there to mask a steroid. And there are 2 tests. Yes, I want to believe him, but this is really tough to overcome. We know USADA's record is close to spotless and 100%. So we have to side with them in this situation, and it's just a real sad situation because he may go away. We may not see him for a long time.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head as to why he didn't cheat in my mind. He's been through everything, and we asked him the question, how are you perceiving at the press conference the day before this came out in Las Vegas, that how are you preparing and how are you looking at this fight with Daniel Cormier? And he thought about it for a second. He said, I'm looking at this as the last door to close on all the negativity in my past couple of years. And to me, being what I think is a smart human being, a smart fighter, done some dumb things, but I think he's a smart human being, is you couldn't be that dumb to try and risk taking something. Then you know that you're going to be tested if you put yourself in the main event, which he asked to be in, by the way. It wasn't like UFC came to him. He said, listen, I want to be a part of this. I want to be the main event. He would not go on intentionally anyway, at least I wouldn't if it were me, and try to risk that, risk losing a 7-figure payday, and throw all of that positive work out the window with everything he's done the last couple of years to get back from the seemingly, bottomless pit that he was in. Personally, I don't think he would do that. I don't think anybody would do that intentionally after everything that he'd been through. That's why I don't think he intentionally cheated.
I wonder what the network is for these fighters. I think John Jones is well connected, but you see at UFC, it is a lot of these guys don't have agents, don't have people they can confer to. They find a way to fight. They don't have all the situations dialed up with regards to health insurance. It is independent contractors. It's a tough business. So he's not going to get a lot of sympathy from these guys because he has that network set. But I wonder who is there talking to these guys through to say what you did. Pick up the phone. We've got to address it. This is priority number 1 when you prepare for the fight. This is what we're taking. This is everything's regimented, the training across the board.
Max, here's what Dana White said to me. He was doing an interview on one of the radio shows that he was on, And he said, I have not spoken to John Jones. I will not speak to John Jones. I have nothing to say to John Jones. He then added, when I was talking to him, he said he should have got rid of everybody that was around him a long time ago. So to your point, the people that are around him.
When was this? I'm curious when Dana said this.
This was all the week of UFC 200.
So, okay.
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
recently then.
Very recently. It was after he was popped for this. And he literally said, I have nothing to say to him. I was shocked when he said that he had not spoken to him. He had not had a phone call. He did not speak to him. And he said he would not take his phone call. He goes, if he called me, I wouldn't take his phone call. And he should have got rid of everybody.
Created a big mess for him.
Right.
This is something I just want to reiterate from what I said yesterday. I want to believe John Jones. I tend to go to that side with this, and hopefully he was a victim of his own ignorance in his words and wasn't being careful what he took, and he took this. If he is taking steroids, and if anyone is taking steroids in mixed martial arts, this is beyond serious as to what the ramifications are, especially a guy like John Jones, who is so dominant, who can be very violent. We've seen his finishes in the ring. Any use of steroids could be life-threatening for a guy of that stature. Not saying anything else, but this is how important it is, from my perspective, from everyone in MMA, to clean up the sport, to make sure, especially a guy like Jones. I think with Brock Lesnar, he's a wrestler. He's going to take you down. But John Jones is a striker. And if he has anything to give him an edge, this is the worst possible scenario.
Yeah, John Jones even reiterated that particular week. He said, I've been very outspoken against PEDs, against steroids, and for those reasons, I haven't taken it. There's a lot of reasons to believe him, but there's also a lot of reasons, Molly, not to believe him.
Here's my thing. So, as you guys know, I started covering the sport in 2006. It wasn't obviously nearly as popular as it is now. John Jones comes in and he just dominates the sport. He's one of the most dynamic fighters we've ever seen, and obviously he was out for nearly 2 years. It was a tumultuous time for him. And I was so excited to see him back. And some people had talked about, you know, the big ego and whatever it is, the partying, that kind of thing. He sat here with us, with Stephen A. and Skip, and he was so humble and he was so genuine. And I truly believed also he had learned so much. And now the mental game was stronger, and he was really going to come back, because he already had those tangibles, but now he's going to have the intangibles as well. And the thing that's hard for me is Dana White wants John fighting. He wants John in this sport. So it's very concerning when he's not taking his calls and has kind of turned his back, because John Jones makes the UFC better when he's fighting. Obviously, we know what type of draw he is. It's disappointing. Obviously, we don't know truly what's going on, but we want to see him back in the sport. We were so excited to see him. And then this was almost like getting sucker punched with this news, because he seemed like everything was on the up and up for him.
That's a great word, sucker punch. And I talk to fans a lot, because everybody knows I was around Vince McMahon for 10 years. And Vince had an uncanny knack, and I try to do it myself in my own life, of being able to address something and move on and give guys second, third, and fourth chances, because it was good for business. And also, if you're a good human being but you're battling some demons, he was also very good at dissecting that and moving on. Dana White said, you know, if he is suspended and he comes back and he wants to fight, there'll probably be a place for John Jones in the UFC. Because guess what? He's good for business.
They need
him.
He's 29, so he has plenty to give.
Plenty
he got
of
such
time.
an early start.
He's one of the best ever.
So,
everyone wants to see him out there.
I would say he's the best. I would say he's the best without much hesitation.
And when you're the best,
and Anderson Silva was right there.
Yeah, but he's 41.
Yeah.
You know, it's when you're the best and you're still in your prime, and you've got probably 8 years of your prime left, he'll take his phone call. It was just such an emotional week for Dana White, Molly.
That's why I'm saying how powerful that statement is, because we know how bad he wanted him back as well. And for me, I don't know much about PEDs, obviously, and if someone's using it for recovery, I don't think he was injured. This guy doesn't need to cheat. He's that good. Look at the pedigree he comes from. Both his brothers are NFL players.
Smart guy. He's a smart guy.
And that's yet another reason why.
Fighting clean, he was just fine. So I hope this gets rectified. I hope to see him. I hope to see him back, and I hope what he said is true.
I do too. I do too, because he's good for business.
The family, that's the people he probably needs to keep close to him to be around fights, because those are the guys, that's the people that will keep him on the straight. That's the guy, and he's a smart guy. You hear him talk, he can talk the talk. I think that is part of part of the method, part of the healing here to get back on track and get back in the octagon where we want to see.
Well, I think that he should heed Dana's advice, and we just saw Phil Mickelson did it in golf when he went through his issues, and he said, listen, I got to change the people that I'm hanging out with. And Phil's 46 years old. This is John Jones, who is in a party atmosphere.
It's the same thing for Johnny Manziel, by the way.
Exactly.
No, we don't need that type of situation.
Right.
And we're not close to there yet.
Right. There is a
We've
bottom
all
line.
had to do it. We've all had to cut people out of our lives. Everybody has to. Let's be honest.
Question.
You're out of my life.
The biggest question mark for the world champion Broncos this offseason is who will start at quarterback. According to our Adam Schefter, the Trevor Siemian talk and chatter is real, and he has a legitimate chance to win the job over Mark Sanchez and Paxton Lynch. And I believe in Adam Schefter, as we all do. Coach,
yes.
One word for Siemian as the Broncos starter.
It is time to play one word. It rocked the world yesterday. My one word today is celebration, because the Broncos celebrated way too long. If this is going to be your situation at quarterback, it's almost like John Elway said, I got to deal with Von Miller. I got to deal with Von Miller. Oh, wait, I don't have a quarterback over here. I've got Mark Sanchez. Wait, I don't have a quarterback over here. Now, maybe he's going to be one of those rare talents that comes out of college and surprises us all. But guess what? Me and Mr. Siemian, we have something in common. We have both thrown the same amount of regular season NFL passes. 0. And when you look at his numbers from, do you know where he went to college, Max?
Northwestern.
Okay.
We have a lot of Northwestern folks here, so you're constantly reminded about the Northwestern football.
Greatest school. Yeah, whatever. Shut it. At Northwestern.
That's them, not me. You're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, I'm talking to the Northwestern people. 27 touchdowns. 24 interceptions in 4 seasons at the juggernaut known as the Wildcats from Northwestern. So you're talking about a non-football powerhouse in the Big Ten, and you had 27 touchdowns in 4 years there. And that's the guy we're talking about leading the defending Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos. That's why it's very easy for me to look at this and say, my one word, celebration.
I like it when you go lay coach as opposed to the coach with celebration. That's good. My one word is accentuate. You got to accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative. It's an oldie but a goodie. Let's accentuate the situation here for Trevor Siemian.
An oldie but a goodie where?
An oldie but a goodie. This is a bad, I'm not catering to the 18 to 35 crowd with that reference,
teasing.
Unfortunately. I think, look, what we saw last season with Peyton Manning is this is a team that can win with average, at best, quarterback play. Nothing really deep passing-wise. I think Trevor Siemian, if we're hearing it from Adam Schefter, yes, he's thrown 0 passes. Yes, he's an undrafted quarterback. But the fact that they're playing him, Paxton Lynch, they have high hopes for him. He has 0 passes in the NFL. Yes, he's a rookie, but Trevor Siemian's not that long out of college. So why wouldn't we be hearing the same thing out of Paxton Lynch? Maybe Trevor Siemian showing something. The loser here is certainly Mark Sanchez. This is a guy who, if Simeon's getting some traction, that it's coming at his expense. But again, Denver Broncos, defensive-oriented team. They win games defensively. I hate saying game manager, but you got to do that. You got to make some passes as well. And with regards to undrafted quarterbacks in the NFL, let me give you some names here.
Please, educate us, Max.
Undrafted quarterbacks in the NFL. Kurt Warner, Warren Moon, Tony Romo.
Heard of them all.
Jeff Garcia.
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about guys that actually played in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So you're talking about all time. You gave me 4 names all time.
I got another.
That shows how rare it is.
Dave Craig.
Now we're talking 1982.
Look, you don't have to. Look, I think people get caught up and go, hey, we have to get a quarterback with the first 2 picks in the draft for him to be good. Tom Brady was drafted, but was he a 6th-round pick? I think you see a guy who comes to the NFL and gets it. Maybe that Gary Kubiak, former quarterback in the NFL, maybe he sees a guy who's getting it. I'm not saying it's the greatest option, but I'm saying it's the best option they have at Denver, and it gives them a little wind in their sails because the alternative could be much worse.
You got a guy, and I know that he's lived behind this for several years, but he did go to 2 AFC Championship games with Mark Sanchez. I'm not a fan of his, I'm just saying. But I don't think we should compare Trevor Siemian to Paxton Lynch or to Mark Sanchez. Have you seen what he looks like? Have you seen? I want to put this up if we could for a second. This could be the long-lost fourth Manning brother.
He could play Peyton Manning in the Hallmark Peyton Manning story.
I think he's actually a hybrid of Peyton and Brock Osweiler, to be honest with you.
Wow, that is.
I'm seeing a little bit of
next
both.
level right there, Molly.
Who's the linebacker for the Texans? I'm seeing him more the all-pro linebacker.
A little Andrew Luck in him, too.
Cushing? No.
I think that's a little Brian Cushing, too.
I don't know about these comparisons.
We're
like morphing, like we're on Snapchat or something.
And that is a present-day Peyton Manning. If you saw Peyton Manning coming out of Tennessee, maybe look a little bit more like Trevor Siemian.
But I don't think people are giving Peyton Manning enough credit. When people are like, oh, they didn't have a quarterback last year. All they did is dink and dunk. This is Peyton Manning, guys. Defenses are intimidated. They're game planning for him, how cerebral he is.
I'm with you.
Fair. Yeah, I don't think he's saying that.
Like,
that's more me.
That's him. I'm coming to you for that.
Okay, well, I agree, but I saw Super Bowl 50 where they just... You can give me snap counts till you're blue in the face. At some point, they're going to catch on to it. I would give credit when they benched Brock Osweiler and brought in Peyton Manning. I think it was the Chargers they were playing. I think they were affected by it. Though, here's Peyton. What's he going to do? But I think from that point forward, people knew what they had with Peyton Manning. Other players made the defense. He deserves more credit than probably I'm giving him to, but not a whole lot more.
At least he wasn't making a lot of mistakes, though, throwing a lot of picks.
Tell that to Trevor Siemian.
You ever heard of a game plan? Do you ever heard of things that you do in football because of how everything else is reacting? They clearly said to Peyton Manning, we're not going to allow you to hurt us because of how great our defense is playing. If they wanted to, they could have opened up the playbook. They didn't need to because Cam Newton couldn't complete a pass the entire game. That's why Peyton Manning didn't do anything in that game. He didn't need to because it was the right thing to do.
It was the right thing. I don't think they wanted any part of opening that playbook and going deep or what have you against Josh Norman or what have you at the time of Carolina.
All right, so now they have Lynch, Siemian, and the Sanchez. Did they make a mistake by getting rid of Brock Osweiler? Did you believe in him and feel like he should have stayed? And
they couldn't pay him that money.
There's no question.
They're not going to pay him that money. I'd rather have Trevor
Siemian. Brock Osweiler? Are you much more confident in him than the three guys I just listed?
Because guess what? The reason the Broncos were in the playoffs and the reason they went to the Super Bowl is because of Brock Osweiler. He came and he didn't play a game or two. He was there for many weeks until Peyton Manning came back in relief. But to let him go to Houston, I'll tell you how bad Brock Osweiler's feelings were hurt. He did not go to the White House. He did not join his teammates that he won a Super Bowl with. Now that he's a quarterback,
they did him dirty last season. The Broncos. They pulled.
Absolutely,
I feel for him. So if he's angry, he should be in the right.
If you had already switched teams.
Yes, it's a once in a lifetime for a lot of people. Once in a lifetime opportunity that I would have taken.
It'd be awkward, but I would go.
No, but
I agree. No, I'd be awkward. I would go.
In a fraternity. It's not like he has to hang out with John Elway and the executives. He can go see his boys, give a little high five, and also dap up the president a little bit. And to me, that's still pretty cool.
Yep.
But that's just me. I would be on the first flight. I would be the first one in line.
But you don't seem like a guy that really experiences a lot of awkward moments. Like, you don't seem like you really care. He might have felt like, oh, gosh, I got to go and see these guys. This is small talk. Oh, now I'm
He'd be behind the president's shoulder, and the president would be making kind of so-so jokes. He'd be like, yes, that's a good one. That's a good one, Prez. You know, who's this guy right behind him?
I wouldn't do that.
I know.
No, I understand it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And I understand President Obama invites you that you need to go, but I don't know if I'd go if I was him. And I know this is a whole other issue.
Why wouldn't you go?
Because I've moved on. And that's just how I am. I just close the door, done, bye-bye, and now I'm with my new team. It's nothing to do with, it's a business. I get it. It's the business we've chosen. I'm just telling you, me personally, if I'm no longer with the Broncos organization, I'm so happy we won a Super Bowl together. We have those memories, but now I've moved on, and now that is no longer my team.
I guess I could buy into that if it was like a Super Bowl winning party. Say in April you got a party for the families. I don't think I would go to that. But we're talking about the White House. We're talking about something that very few people ever get to experience. And to miss that because you're awkward, I just don't agree with it. But I also think it plays into why Brock didn't stay, because they kind of courted him a little bit, but certainly not at the level and the price tag.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Okay.
And this doesn't even make sense at all. And the producers are like,
we love those questions.
Why is she asking this? Pretend the Oklahoma City Thunder. Pretend they won this year.
I was going to ask you the same one.
Pretend they won. Okay, they won. Katie still leaves. Obviously, if they won, Katie wouldn't have left. So they're going to the White House. Does Katie go?
That'd be very weird.
Okay, you're
I
talking.
wouldn't
You're
go.
very
I'm
weird
just
that he
telling you,
left.
I'm
Okay.
a homebody. I'm antisocial. I'm not going.
You're talking about a transcendent Hall of Fame talent who left his team.
I told you it's a bad example. Just answer it.
To me, it's complete apples and oranges. You're talking about a backup quarterback and Kevin Durant, who's going to be a Hall of Fame top 20
But it's
player
once
all
in a
day.
lifetime. It's the White House.
Maybe not
It's
for him.
Dabbing
Maybe not for him.
He would have done Oklahoma City a solid, so I think he could have come up with a clean slate.
Jonathan Coachman.
You may have. You may have. That may be the only example that could stump me. Because I don't think I could. If I'm Kevin Durant, I don't think I could go.
But he'd be a champion of Oklahoma City because he won the title.
But he runs the
even though he left.
franchise. Brock Osweiler didn't run the franchise.
Right. Oh, by the way, to answer your question, I think I prefer Trevor Siemian than paying $17 million or whatever it was to Brock Osweiler. I'd rather have Brock Osweiler, but not at that price tag.
You know, I'd rather have a quarterback.
So who do we think is going to start? Is it Mark Sanchez?
I think
What do
at
you
this
do
point,
here? Or do you throw one of the rookies into the fire and then you always have Sanchez?
And we can call Siemian a rookie. He hasn't no passes.
Yeah, I'm talking about in terms of
Adam Schefter is saying that it's in the mix, I think the Broncos are looking for an alternative for Mark Sanchez. We're hearing that. I think they're really taking this seriously. And again, you have a coach who was a quarterback who with a straight face made the change of Brock Osweiler was playing well. Rules with an iron fist with those quarterback decisions.
It's going to be an unhappy defense.
He doesn't know anything of Mark Sanchez. He doesn't know nothing because we got you here. Nothing was guaranteed, so you've got to perform or we're going another way.
2015, quite a year for Alabama as they won the college football championship, beating then undefeated Clemson in a shootout. It was head coach Nick Saban's 5th championship, making him just one shy of tying Bear Bryant for the most ever in the AP era. The Crimson Tide head into 2016 with a different team, though. Their biggest loss, Derrick Henry, who's now a Tennessee Titan. Congratulations to him. According to ESPN FPI, Bama's new roster gives them the 3rd best chance to win the SEC this season. So with that, we welcome Nick Saban to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Great to be here, Mom.
First of all, let me say, you know what a big fan Stephen A. is of yours. He loves you, and I know he's very disappointed that he couldn't be here today, but he's got one more week off before training camp opens and him and Max Kellerman start. And congratulations on the championship.
Thank you very much.
Speaking of that, now how do you keep these players motivated and avoid that quote-unquote championship hangover?
Well, I think the big thing is you try to avoid complacency. I think it's sort of human nature that when you have success, you know, people think I'm supposed to get some time off, and maybe they don't stay as committed to the things that help them be successful. They start to resent the hard work. They start to question some of the principles and values that help them be successful. So those are the things you got to make the players aware of so that you don't have complacency, which creates a blatant disregard for doing things correctly, which is very important if you're going to have success.
Got to stay consistent.
Yeah, Coach Saban, we just played one word the last segment, and my one word was celebration, and you've been able to do that a lot. You're known as a disciplinarian. What would be your one word in your mind for the off season that you have had?
Well, I'm pleased with the off season that we've had. I think, you know, the off season is a work in progress. If I looked at last season, right now, we didn't have what we needed to have to be successful and win a championship at this point.
Okay.
We didn't have it in January. We didn't have it in March. We developed it as the season went on. And I think probably losing to Ole Miss was probably the one thing that probably helped us the most to continue to develop the kind of team chemistry that we needed to play whatever it was, 11 or 12 elimination games, which took a lot of perseverance and passion on the players' part. And I really appreciated it. Now they have a lifetime memory for their achievement that, you know, will be with them forever.
Coach Saban, at SEC Media Days, it was great television from our perspective. We saw Paul Feinbaum ask a question that many people want to see him ask. You were able to defend your program in that situation. We enjoyed watching it because it was real. When we see that exchange between media and the coaches, what do you think's something that we can both take away that we can work on to get the best answers, to get the best questions for the public that watches us here on ESPN?
Well, I think it was an appropriate question for Paul to ask, and I think it was an appropriate answer for me to give.
Yep.
Because, you know, what we're concerned about is the well-being of our players. How do we help our players be more successful in life for having been involved in the program? And sometimes people define things relative to punishment rather than treatment. And I would rather treat the symptoms of what we have to do to correct problems so that people learn and grow, whether it's your own children or our players. And we try to be consistent in that regard. So, and every case is different.
When I saw that, I thought to myself, you want to be in a foxhole in the trenches with this guy, certainly defending your players, and that's what you got to do there as coach. Let's go on the field here. Quarterback. Who's going to start?
Well, we don't know yet. I think we have 3 or 4 guys that have shown at times some capability of being able to win the job, but I use the term win the team all the time, and I think that's very, very important for whoever wins this job to do, the players. And when you ask me, well, what does win the job mean? Mm-hmm. Well, you win the players over by your performance, your ability to play with some consistency, to execute. They develop confidence in you, you develop confidence in them, and that's where the chemistry comes from that's necessary to score points and execute offensively in a consistent fashion.
I think one of the cool things that you've done the last few years, and I know that the V Foundation auction last week on ESPN Radio announced something that you're going to be a part of, is we've got to learn a lot about you that maybe people were surprised at, that you like to dance, you like to boat, you like to do a lot of things that maybe surprised us. You're really good as an analyst on College Game Day. What do you enjoy?
All I heard was he likes to dance. All I can hear is he likes, I want to see the dance.
I love it. Are you surprised at the reaction that you get when we see your personality come out that maybe surprises us all?
Well, I think that sometimes, you know, we all have a little blind spot, and that's probably how we think we are versus how we're perceived. Okay. And, you know, my wife says my blind spot is as big as the Grand Canyon. So maybe that's why it is what it is. I don't really know.
Coach, you have annually scheduled a massive game for your season opener. This year is USC. Let's talk a little bit about that opponent and about your vision of starting the season in such a way against another team that is probably going to be considered a national championship contender.
Well, we've done this for 8 or 9 years for a couple reasons. You know, first of all, I think it gives your players something to look forward to in the off season. It makes them forget a little bit about what happened last year, which is really important in our circumstance, and they've got a challenge to look forward to this year. Secondly, you really find out when you play a good opponent early, where are we? You know, what do we technically need to do to improve? Whether we win or we lose either one, we know where we have to go from there. And Southern Cal has a lot of players back on both sides of the ball. They got really good players, and they're a well-coached team, so this is going to be a very difficult challenge for us.
Coach, when you use a player like Derrick Henry and the kind of production that he had, how do you get your team to recover from that?
Well, I think it just creates opportunities for other players. I mean, whether it's Bo Scarborough or Damian Harris or a freshman running back coming in. We've always had, you know, really good history of great running backs, and I think the balance that we've had on offense has lended itself to our success, and it's also lended it to the fact that the quarterback doesn't always have to win the game for us, and our ability to run the ball and have that balance this year will be critical for us as well.
You've been a big part of the BCS system, the national championship level, and now the college football playoff at the national championship level. What have you liked about it? What have you not liked about it?
Well, I like the playoff. I like the BCS. I like being involved in playing a game for the championship. I like the playoff. I think it's a little bit of a challenge because of the time between the SEC championship game, the playoff game against Michigan State, then another, you know, time before you play Clemson. That's a little challenging as a coach to get your team ready. How much time do you take off? How much time do you practice? What's too much? What's not enough? But the only question that I've ever had about the playoff system is, how does the playoff system and the bowl games coexist?
Right.
Because I've always felt like the bowl games are huge in terms of positive self-gratification for players and programs who have a good season. Maybe it's not a championship season, but they get the opportunity to go to a bowl game. It's great for their fans. It's great for the program. It's great for the players. That gets minimized a little bit in terms of importance when there's so much emphasis on the playoffs. People don't pay as much attention to those games, and that's the only downside that I see, because I think the bowl game has been an important part of the tradition of college football.
But they're almost competing with each other in a way.
In a way.
Molly did her best to try and get an announcement for the starting quarterback this season. Regardless of who it is, it's going to be a 4th different quarterback in 4 years. You had A.J. McCarron. I don't know if that made your job easier knowing that he was your quarterback, but what kind of muscles have you trained your staff? having to go through these quarterback battles the last 3 years?
Well, I think that it's always a challenge. It's good competition. I think it makes everybody better. And I think we have 3 or 4 guys who really have the right stuff when it comes to how they're approaching this. And I think the most important thing is when you have a quarterback battle, that the quarterbacks focus on what they need to do and not what the other guys do.
Yep.
All right, because sometimes they're always looking over their shoulder. You know, I completed 12 passes, he completed 11. Well, you don't need to worry about that. You need to worry about what do I need to do every play.
Get my reps in, Coach. I need one more pass.
Don't worry about what the other guy's doing. How about what you're doing? That's what we're trying to evaluate here.
Speaking of coaches, we had Kirby Smart in here yesterday, and I asked him about you, and I said, how do you approach the rivalry now? And he said, well, we're not rivals because we don't really play each other that often. But how much satisfaction, gratification do you get from seeing one of your guys that was with you so long now running such a high-profile program, also in the SEC?
Well, you know, we've got several of those guys. Jim McElwain, Will Muschamp, Jimbo Fisher at Florida State, Mark D'Antonio at Michigan State, Kirby now at Georgia. And, you know, I'm happy for all those guys. Those guys did a fabulous job when they worked for us and contributed to the success because of their efforts. And they gave those efforts so they could fulfill some of the goals and aspirations that they had personally. And it's always great to see them fulfill those things. And we just hope that they do well. And they got those opportunities based on what they did and the contribution that they made. And we really appreciate what they did for us. And we wish them the very best in what they're going to try to do in their new challenges.
Coach, congratulations again. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure when you're here. When Draymond Green was asked at Team USA practice if he needs to change in light of recent incidents on and off the court, Green responded with a smile. You got to love his smile, right? Being me has gotten me this far. Max, let's play a little one word. Continue it right now. One word for Draymond's attitude.
Before I get to that one word, I want to say the best thing to come out of the Olympics thus far is this Team USA practice, because we get the Kevin Durant sound and we get Draymond Green and we get some clarity. But my one word as it applies to Draymond Green is opening. He is going to leave himself open. I understand his situation when he says that being me has got me this far, and I agree 100%. He's got to have that savvy. He's got to have that attitude. But he's got to be careful, because he's going to make himself a target on the court and off. On the court, I don't know if being him's got anything to do with it, but he made some enemies. Sure, he missed a game in the NBA Finals. He swinging leg, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but he caught someone below the belt a couple times, and one time too many. And that, no one likes that, I can tell you. It's happened to me many times. I don't like it. I think I can speak on behalf of many others in that. But off the court, because of that savvy, because of that attitude, I don't know anything about what happened in the misdemeanor charge. It seems like he has to shoulder some of the blame of what occurred there. But he's going to be a target. There's going to be guys going, hey, Draymond, hey, you ain't so tough now, whatever it is, because of that attitude that we see when he's playing with the Warriors, which is probably a necessity to make him who he is. We've heard about how he challenged himself, how he knows the name of every player drafted before him that year, and he's taken that as a challenge. That is what he fuels himself off of. But he has to be careful, not be involved in those situations, stay away from any trouble spots. It's not fair, but that's the reality of being an athlete, because I can't think of many more players in the NBA that Joe Blow on the street may take some attitude with. I wouldn't want to do it with him. He's 6'8", he's a massive human being, but I think people might want to say a few things from him across the bar, across the restaurant, wherever it may be.
Are you done? Are you
I think
done?
so. I'll leave it at that.
You're playing you're playing right into my one word.
Right.
You're playing right into my hand, young
This is
friend.
good then.
My one word is mistake. If anybody can appreciate embracing a character, a role, a persona, it would be yours truly.
You're a softy when you go out. When everyone sees you.
See, that's what I'm saying.
He's got to do what you do.
Right. You've got to be able. You've got to be able. Yes. So you've got to be one way on TV or in the public eye. You've got to be completely. If you're gonna be arrogant or cocky or a little bit over the top, you can't be that way in your personal life. You just can't. It's a mistake. And for him to say it's gotten me this far, no, it hasn't. What has gotten you this far is the fact that you're a really great basketball player who plays with an edge, who plays right crossing over the line. I believe he's the reason they lost the NBA Finals this year. And I said it on our radio show. I said when he got suspended, that opened the door. Then what happened? Bogut goes down. Now nobody's at the rim. Now the Cavs have all this confidence. Boom, they come back and win 3 straight games. So being yourself cost you an NBA championship, in my opinion. So it's a mistake to come out and say, I'm not changing what I do, because if you don't change, these bad things will continue to happen. I don't care how much money you make.
If he has to, anything he has to do to apologize to your team, that's something you never want to do. So now he's had to apologize to the team for whatever happened in the finals. Probably has to apologize to the team for being a distraction here.
And throughout the year, yes, when he yelled at halftime that one time.
So that's, the team's going to be okay. They're going to support him 100% because he's a crucial part of everything good that Golden State does on the court. But you don't want to make that habit forming. Hey, I'm sorry, guys, for doing this, because that's going to start getting old very quick. Now, with the situation they have now, where you have those 4 superstars, I wonder if opposing teams are going to identify, and again, this has nothing to do with the misdemeanor charge and what happens off the court, but on the court with some of to see how he can be a bit loose, as we saw in the finals. I wonder if that is the way they're going to exploit the Warriors to try to get under their skin, because it's going to be hard to do it in other ways because they're going to be so dominant. What's the game plan if you are Oklahoma City or Portland, or if you're Spurs? You go after Draymond Green and you get him unraveled.
I'm going to tell you what it is. I got 2 words for you.
Uh-oh.
Dennis Rodman. Remember what he used to do?
You should have went one word and just did Rodman to stay with the theme, but I'll give you a pass.
I appreciate you for that.
You just ruined the whole trademark.
I ruined the entire segment.
You did. You went 2 words.
My goodness.
2 words doesn't sound as good as 1 word.
Wow. So what Rodman used to do, if people remember, is if there was somebody that had a little bit of a temper or could be pushed over the edge, he would be the guy to really get in their crawl. He'd be the guy to really get up in them a little bit. Joakim Noah is a little bit like this, too. Somebody that is willing to take a punch. And that's exactly what people who are willing to take a punch.
Jose Bautista.
Well, I don't know if he was able to take it or if he just took it. He took it. But when you talk about Draymond Green and the fact that he was able to, and LeBron didn't do it on purpose, but you don't think for a second LeBron didn't think or know that if he stepped over him like that he might get a shot from Draymond? Of course he knew. And he was willing to take that shot, maybe not in that region, but it worked. And if you ask LeBron James now, he said, I'll take that little shot all day, and I've got the trophy at home.
Let's take a look at some of the storylines for Kevin Sumlin in the Texas A&M Aggies. We begin with the 2015 season, finishing off 8-5, capping the year up with a loss to Louisville in the Music City Bowl, ending a streak of 4 straight bowl wins. Last season featured multiple quarterbacks for the Aggies, mostly Kyle Allen and Kyler Murray, neither of them who are with the team anymore. Both players transferred out of College Station this offseason, excluding 2016 signee Nick Starkel. All 5 of the quarterbacks Sumlin signed out of high school have failed to finish their careers at A&M. Now enter Trevor Knight, who transferred from Texas A&M to Texas A&M from Oklahoma. Knight started 10 games for the Sooners in 2014 and had 14 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. So with that, we welcome in Kevin Sumlin here on First Take. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you. We just mentioned Trevor Knight. How high is the ceiling for him in your offense?
Well, I think, he benefits from the fact that he's an experienced guy. He's played in big games, a transfer guy, but has reached some really high heights, beating Alabama, being an MVP of a bowl game, and brings a lot of experience, and I think sky's the limit for him.
Kevin, Johnny Manziel must have known you were going to be here today, because he tweeted out to your fan base today that he wanted to get back in their good graces. I'm a positive guy, and I like to look at positive things. When you look at everything that Johnny Manziel did for you as a coach and also for the fan base, give a positive story on Johnny Manziel right now as he tries to head back in that direction.
I think, the positive part is that there's no doubt he was one of the greatest college players during that time, but maybe right up there for all time, and just tremendous energy and a great teammate during that time. And like I said at media days, Johnny's always going to be an Aggie, and we're always going to be here for him. And we're hoping the best for him. And as we communicate with him, we want the best for him. So it's the things that he accomplished in college football. One of the most exciting players maybe to play the game, certainly during this time, maybe of all time. And now transition into the rest of his life. We'll see where it goes.
Quarterbacks have transferred from Texas A&M since Johnny Manziel. We go to Kenny Hill, Kyle Allen, Kyler Murray, more recently. Why do you think that's been happening?
Well, I think if you lump everything into one piece, it looks different.
Yep.
You know, some guys that have come there have had success. Other guys have been beaten out in their jobs. And I think if you look across the country, you know, quarterbacks are moving around all over the place right now.
You're getting one moving here.
We talk about the guys that are leaving. We got a pretty good one that just came to us that's played. So, you know, transfers have unfortunately become a part of college football. And I think what they say, one man's junk's another man's treasure, right? So, you know, we're fortunate that we've got a guy like Trevor Knight who has great experience, who's been in big games, has won, and comes in as a piece that, as I said before, he fills a void for us that we needed, and we fill a void for him that he needed because he's got something to prove.
Now, how does that work? Because we always wonder when you hear a high-profile transfer coming in or leaving, how does the process work for you when a guy calls you or contacts you and says, hey, listen, I want to be your guy, but right now I'm playing at Oklahoma?
Well, it's different. You know, first of all, you got to get a release from your university to be able to contact different people, and usually those guys will reach out. Two of our better players last year, Brandon Williams, who was a third-round pick at corner, transferred from Oklahoma when I first got there, and Trey Carson, who rushed for 1,200 yards, transferred from Oregon. So they both played as freshmen from at their places, but they wanted to be closer to home. And so, you know, they have to sit out a year, really endure a lot of different things. But, you know, we go through that process, and if it's the right fit for us, then and the right fit for him, then it usually works out. So we've had success in that area. You know, everybody wants to talk about the guys leaving, but there's also guys coming in that have been successful at our place.
What about Myles Garrett? He could be a top pick in next year's NFL draft. What are your expectations for him?
Well, I hope he plays a little bit better than last year. If he does, then he's going to make a lot of money. He's going to make us happy too. So, no, he's a great player and a great kid, and one of the best players there is in the country. You know, tough, fast, explosive, but also a low-maintenance guy. And it's hard to find guys that are that talented that don't need everything. So, you know, the sky's the limit for him. And I've said before, you know, the best thing that happened to Myles Garrett is Deshaun Hall or other end, because, you know, he gets all the double teams, and that helped Deshaun Hall come on the scene against Arizona State the first game of the year, so they had to block both of them.
Coach, you can say I'm bananas, but I know there's some challenges with Texas A&M still being the SEC. You've been an SEC member for a while. You're still a little set adrift from the lion's den of the SEC, a little further in the southeast. What are the positives, though? What are the challenges of being a little away from that epicenter for the Aggies?
Well, I don't know. I think, you know, we're a good fit. And I think people enjoy coming to College Station. You know, it's the tradition, all the things that surround us. You know, everybody wants to talk about football, but we've had some real success as an athletic program across the board. You know, with a baseball team, a Sweet 16 basketball, soccer, all these teams that have come into this league and have gotten more exposure, but also have been somewhat successful. Now, if we could make the next step, that would be great, but it's a tough league. And being on the outside, you know, we're the furthest west team. That's probably why I'm the last guy to get here this morning. But it's a long way.
We weren't going to say that.
But you made it. You're on time.
It's a long
You're on time.
It's a long ways from College Station to here. So, you know, it was dark this morning when I got on the plane.
Two connections, perhaps. We don't have the direct from Tuscaloosa to Hartford.
No, we appreciate it. Coach, what are you most optimistic about this season?
Well, I like where we are. I like the attitude in our locker room. I like the non-drama in the off season. I think some of the older guys have come in and really done a nice job with leadership and really settling things down. So
no drama, always a good thing.
No drama's always all right.
We love that.
As a coach. And then, you know, we get going August 7th. These guys got a little attitude going right now.
Yeah.
And then you bring in a guy like Trevor Knight who's got something to prove. It's going to be a fun year.
Coach, I'm going to change the tenor here. Real serious question, if you don't mind. Pokemon Go has been a sensation.
I don't understand this Pokemon Go.
You had me reeled in.
That's what I do. That's what. Okay.
He had a pit in his stomach. And
football stadiums are holy ground, but Kyle Field was opened up. What are your thoughts? Look at this. That's your field.
Yeah.
And they're catching Pokemons.
Yeah, it's. I really don't know what to say right now.
Have you played it?
No, my son plays. I've got 4 kids, so you know,
You got to play with them. I play with my son. It's a good laugh.
You know, I got people walking around my house with their phones. It was hard enough as it is with teenagers, right?
Right.
But for everybody to be walking around just staring at their phone all over the place, it's kind of an issue in my house right
Make sure they don't cross the road.
I don't get
like
it
this.
either. So.
He's got
You guys
to
aren't the
worry
only
about besides Pokemon Go. He's got,
I got
right?
a lot of
Other things to handle. Coach, we so appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Right,
you
thank
made
you.
it just on time.
I appreciate
And
it.
it's much appreciated. Chris Paul isn't expected to be a free agent until next summer, but he still played an important role in free agency this summer, telling USA Today Sports that he offered Kevin Durant the following advice. Quote, I remember I told KD, man, this is one of the only times in your career where you get to pick and choose where you want to play and where you want to live. Enjoy it. His decision is what it is, and I am happy for him. Coach, do you agree with Chris Paul here?
Are you serious?
Serious.
Are you serious right now? I guess I forgot when everybody was buddies, where everybody said, let's play in the same sandbox. And I guess maybe I'm a little more old school like Larry Bird or Magic Johnson. But come on. What happened to if you're, and maybe Chris Paul is setting himself up for something next summer. Maybe he's going to go to an already stacked whatever if he's willing to take a little less money to go to a team that's already loaded. That's what I'm expecting. Because if I'm a competitor, and I am of the highest talent in the NBA, I should want to lead my own charge. And if Chris Paul is a point guard for a Clippers team, which has their stars, but they've never been able to get, past a certain point in the playoffs, I would think and I would expect more from him. But for him to pile on and to tell Kevin Durant, because they're buddies, because they play together, and in the summertime they like to hang out, and they're doing banana boats with LeBron and D Wade, and everybody's hanging out. To me, I don't understand this thought process of go where you want to go just because you can. I don't agree with it, and I never will.
Now people in L.A. or Clipper fans are getting a little nervous because, hey, you can do whatever you want.
There's no question.
To Chris Paul. But it's the right advice. Look, it's a seller's market right now. Whether it's right or not, you can't tell them, hey, you've got to be loyal to that team. You've got to do what's right here. The reality is everybody's doing it. Every player is out there trying to make as much money as they are, get themselves in a position that they want to be. Maybe there's a third part here for Kevin Durant. He wants to live in San Francisco. He wants to live in the Bay Area. I don't know. And whether this is solicited or unsolicited advice from Chris Paul, it's the reality of the NBA. I like to live in a world where we think these guys. I'm a Cavs fan. I don't want LeBron to leave. I wanted him to stay and say finish the job, but it didn't.
Do you not think this is a very, very, very unique situation that you've got one of the top probably 15 players of all time going to a 73-win team that just beat you in the playoffs? To me, the circumstances, I'm okay with a player going wherever he wants to go. But this particular player, I am not.
Well, Chris Paul wasn't saying that to him about going to the Warriors. He said, you do what you have to do. This is a one time in your career where you get to pick and choose. It is, because he may do it again next year, but if things go on the Warriors, maybe he locks himself long term. This is the time to do it. You can't act, if you're Kevin Durant, like, okay, the Thunder are going to make this decision for me. Mm-hmm. I'm making this decision because every other NBA player, from LeBron to Chris Paul at some point, is making that decision.
And guess what?
Well,
I would have been okay if he left, just not going to the Golden State Warriors.
I agree with you.
I just think as a competitor, as someone who should be able to lead his own franchise, that this was the one place that he could not go.
It's a downer.
And that's what he did.
It's a downer for me. It should be a downer for most NBA fans because the best games last season, regular season, were the Thunder and the Warriors. That is pretty much off the table as we saw it last year with that superstar tandem going at it. And that's disappointing. The NBA Finals, if we get what we're expected to get, Cavs Warriors, well, that's going to be fantastic. But what happens in November, December, or January, even the playoffs could be diminished. I don't like it. But the reality is, Kevin Durant, that was the opportunity. He gets to dictate the rules here, and he took that.
And that's why I don't like it. We went from 4 or 5 teams. I call them Thursday night teams. What are the teams that are allowed to be on TNT on a Thursday night?
Or a Saturday on ESPN.
That's right.
Saturdays were nice.
Right.
Those
So
prime
Thursday and
But
Saturday.
here's my question. I know you're saying that's the one team they can't go. And initially when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is a little weak. This feels kind of dirty. But I do get where it's liberating. A lot of times we don't get to choose where we live, whatever, and it's dictated for us. So for him to be able to make the choice. What if all you want is a ring? and you truly feel like this is the only team you can win a ring with?
When you are blessed with the talent that Kevin Durant has, and you are all-time a top 15 player, to me, you have a responsibility to go after the ring on your own franchise.
You're this close.
To pile on just to say, well, I got my ring. I was great, but I got my ring. No, you went to a team that was already a championship team. You didn't earn that ring. He's not going to earn that ring.
But Coach,
He already went on a team that was a championship
in 20
team.
years, whatever, when we're talking about KD, all we care about is rings, right? And how many rings people have, how many championships they won. Is it better to not have one, or is it better to have one and say, it was a little weak that you had to go join them, can't beat them, join them type thing?
Obviously, it's not me.
Ring, right?
To me, it's not. If this to me in the history of the NBA is the weakest decision that I've ever seen. So I think in 20 years, people say nobody's going to care. He got his ring. I don't believe that. I think when people look back at this era, the LeBrons, the Kobes, the Kevin Durants, all these guys, they're going to look at Kevin Durant if he gets one, and I believe that he will, because he's going to be there for the next 4, 5, 6 years, and they're going to look at it and say, but. And he's going to have the big but next to his name.
The pursuit of the ring is as special as the ring, I think, and that's why history's going to be very kind for LeBron James, because the way he did it, going back to Cleveland without a full deck, they didn't know they had the right pieces, and he won a championship. The season will tell me how history will look at Kevin Durant. If he all of a sudden is a guy taking 15 shots because there's so many shots to be taken around, how many second shots, third shots will if he becomes more of a complementary player, which I don't know what's going to happen, but who's going to be the alpha male on that team, then that's going to affect Kevin Durant, because he was the big star where he was. And if this is going to be a collaborative affair, if you're the Beatles instead of, I don't know, Ted Nugent, the big solo guy getting it done, it's a different outcome.
Let me throw a few names out at you, and tell me what you would think if you wouldn't go quickly. Okay. Larry Bird goes to the Golden State Warriors. This is a level of player we're talking about here. Okay, Magic Johnson goes to the Golden State Warriors. Michael Jordan goes to the Golden State Warriors. No chance. Kobe Bryant says, I'm leaving. I'm going to the Golden State Warriors. Every single guy. What are we saying? It's a bad look. Why don't you do it on your own team? Guess what? All of those guys did. As did LeBron. As did D. Wade.
It's a new day.
Don't tell me it's a new day.
But we still watch it.
Don't tell me it's a new day.
I would
when
like
you're
to see
that great of a player, you don't go onto a team when you're now, to your point, probably going to get 15 shots a game, and you're a 30-point scorer.
That could take this whole plan apart when you have these guys who are used to being the big gun, and now they have to change it.
See.
Look, we're still going to watch. It's a new day in the NBA. We're going to watch.
But you do got to worry about the rest of the league. Aren't we like a 2-team league right now?
Right.
Yeah.
3.
Okay.
3.
Pacers Raptors on a Thursday. That's not going to cut it for you.
Can't wait for the Bucks Bulls.
So is your one word for this move weak?
I love how you've bought in. Completely bought in.
I'm going to go with 2 words.
Yes, it's
how about
fun.
2 words?
It's fun. It is. It's weak sauce.
Bart Scott told NJ.com that Geno Smith would be an upgrade over Ryan Fitzpatrick if they decide to go with him at quarterback. Muy interesante. Coach, one word on Bart Scott saying Geno Smith is an upgrade.
Molly, there were so many different ways I could have gone on this one. But my one word is watching. As in, what is Bart Scott watching when he sees the tape of Geno Smith? It's like a blunder on top of blunder on top of blunder. I've never met Geno Smith. I don't know him. I just know what I see on Sundays when Max and I do 1 to 4 NFL on ESPN Radio.
Good drop right there.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Shameless plug. Go for it.
And I know that I've seen, at least the last 3 years, almost every single snap that Geno Smith has taken. So for Bart Scott, who clearly is trying to get his juices flowing for his fall football job, I don't think this is a very good start for him. Because to say that Geno Smith is an upgrade over anybody in the NFL, to me, is not only a stretch, it's just an all-out, what are you, my one word, watching?
My one word is start. Not only should maybe Geno Smith start, but this is a good start for him. This is a position where, I mean, this is starting to build up for the New York Jets. So with Ryan Fitzpatrick, I don't want to... we don't know about. I want to give you some stats because I think Geno Smith.
Let's hear this.
Make your
case. You have the floor.
Please.
Go,
Let's
my
take away
friend.
Molly and I would love to hear this one.
we
We'll
want to
take
hear
away
it.
the incident
This
in
is such a good start.
2015 with
Okay.
the broken jaw. It happened.
Yep.
It's out there. A learning curve here, certainly. A learning situation for Geno Smith. 2013, 3,000 yards passing, 21 interceptions, 4 fumbles. A year later, 13 interceptions, 3 fumbles. He's learning.
Yep.
He's got, now part of what Bart Scott said and why he liked it, I said, this is why I also want to use the word start, because you're giving me good criteria. And the start was he could throw the deep ball, which Ryan Fitzpatrick cannot.
Can he
and
throw it
that's
off
a
his
good
bat?
starting point. He could throw it, he said. He's got the arm. He says Ryan Fitzpatrick needs to step into it. So I think the deep ball is a good start for this team. You have Matt Forte to hand off now. You have some nice receivers. I think as an emergency plan, if you don't sign Ryan Fitzpatrick, the more I think about it, the Geno Smith situation is not that alarming to me now.
Max, here's a little nugget. When there's a 2 in front of your INTs,
I know.
that's not a
But
good
he knocked
season.
it down.
That's not a good
He
season.
knocked it down.
Your argument is as awful as Geno Smith is. And the fact that we're sitting here...
You got to give him a learning curve.
Fitzpatrick broke a ton of records last year. He had a fantastic year.
He did, but he fell short at the end. Which
There
maybe
are
Geno Smith
not
fell short at the end.
32 good quarterbacks to be had as far as the top level. Geno Smith isn't a good backup, let alone a starter. So nobody should say that Ryan Fitzpatrick is not as good of an option as Geno Smith. Now, if this is all you have...
You have Christian Hackenberg.
Who was supposed to be. Remember how quickly things changed, speaking of that?
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Why not?
Because things changed so quickly. He was supposed to be the #1 pick a couple of years ago out of Penn State. Remember when he kept his allegiance to Penn State and went there and said, hey, this is going to be the resurgence. Whether it's a bad offensive line at Penn State or he just wasn't as good as people thought, is this the guy you want to go with over Geno Smith? I don't think so. The Jets, the more we talk about it, the more I'm falling right into the lap of Ryan Fitzpatrick.
The only thing working against whoever starts at quarterback for the New York Jets next season, their starting schedule, Bengals at home, at Buffalo, at Chiefs, another playoff team, Seattle, at Pittsburgh, at Arizona. So maybe
that's a tough schedule.
Oh,
That's brutal.
They'll be 1-4.
I mean, you would need Joe Namath in his prime to maybe break 500 with that kind of schedule. So maybe the Jets are already facing an uphill battle. That would be a tough. This is the reason I bring that up is because that'd be a tough spot to bring Geno Smith in to open with. Let's see, 5 playoff teams in your first 6 games.
Only thing working for them is at least Tom Brady in their division. Not that they're winning the division is not there for the first 4 games, but with Ryan Fitzpatrick, if they still can get this deal done, are the Jets a playoff team anyway?
No.
Does it even matter?
They weren't a playoff team because they're not going to win their division. Then you got enough other good teams, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati being 2 of those, just in the AFC North, to take the wild cards. So the Jets, even with Ryan Fitzpatrick, was not going to be a playoff team. I don't understand why a New York team, there's certain teams that should have cachet and swag. You need to have a great quarterback if you're a New York team. And for some reason, nobody wants to go there as a free agent, and they cannot draft.
Colin Kaepernick wanted to go, but that didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
I like the Jets as a team. They're strong, but I think they'd be on the outside looking in the playoffs. And unfortunately, it's the quarterback position that will hold them back in the end. But whether it's Geno Smith or Ryan Fitzpatrick, I don't think with the schedule that I mentioned, I don't think that's going to help the Jets move over that line.
I still think Fitzpatrick's going to be there, and I still think they're going to get a deal done.
I agree.
We shall see. Moving on, though, Charles Tillman announced his retirement from the NFL with a video where he uses his signature peanut punch to knock everyday items out of hands of his family members and friends before hanging up his cleats at a time. The clock that reads best day ever. This was so funny. I don't know if you guys got to see it. I love it. It was so creative, Max. One word for Tillman's retirement video.
My one word is slap, which is the sound you hear every time he knocks something out of someone's hands. You'll see the end here. He hangs the cleats up. I like how players are doing this, being creative to say they're retired. Peanut Tillman, smart guy. Very cute children, by the way.
Yeah.
If you get to go see it online.
Beautiful family.
I think it's really nice to see that, the family unit. And one goes, hey, Dad, don't do it. So I like to see that, including your family in the retirement, because obviously that's the biggest reason you're making that decision.
No.
Friends were involved. Slapping it out. Although if he slaps my phone out of it, I'd be hot. Although he's much bigger than me, and there's not much I could do, but I could get someone to do it for me.
My one word is thought, as in he put a lot of thought into this particular process
Creative.
and how he wanted to do. And why? Why did he do that?
Your one
it
word?
wasn't to
Thought?
Yes, that's
Okay.
my one word. It wasn't to entertain his family or to entertain us. It was to show the executives all around this great land of ours that have NFL programming that I'm a guy that you need to hire now that I'm no longer playing. He has made himself available
resume tape.
100%. You don't want a guy that
Max and the
has
Peanut.
fun?
That's got a good ring to it. Max and...
What, you throw me to the wolves? What?
I just seen how it sounds. Peanut and the
really?
coach? You like that?
Peanut and the coach?
That does
Everything
sound good.
sounds good with the coach.
And Peanut.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you not, if you're an executive, not want to look at a player who can kind of let their hair down a little bit, be funny, be themselves, and then come in with no ego from the NFL? Because we've seen a lot of guys come in here with a huge ego. I was the man. I was the guy. You're going to bow down to me. And then it didn't work out. I'll take a Peanut Tillman anytime because it looks like he likes to have a lot of fun.
He got that message across with levity. He goes, this is what I did. This is how I made my living in the NFL and was very successful at it. I'm a big fan of levity. Walking the walk and talking the talk in a funny way. People think it's a weakness in sports. It's not. Case in point from Peanut Tillman. Well done. I really enjoyed that.
I loved it. I thought it was so creative. It was fun-loving. We
Yeah.
saw it last night. Sabino sent it to us, our researcher.
Sabino.
Yeah. But do you guys think he came up with it? That's my question. Or do you
I think so. He's really, really funny. He's creative. I think so. I think he had some help.
Yeah.
You know, but all the different ideas.
That
it's
brainstorming,
collaborative effort.
he wanted to go out in a different manner.
My son came up to me as I was watching it. Which is always dangerous because you never know what you're watching. I was watching Peanut Tillman. He came in and he was laughing as well. So it catered to the younger audience. He thought it was funny. I thought the one where the guy was in the drive-thru and they made you wait and wait.
Yeah.
And where does he come? He comes from the slaps it away. It was good comedy.
Molly, real quick, we have a special thing tonight on SportsCenter. I want to play real quick. John Cena is going to be our live guest after the first
that's
live
awesome.
SmackDown.
He did a great job on the Espn.
Did a great job. We're going to ask him about that in the 10 o'clock Eastern hour of SportsCenter tonight.
Awesome. And you guys are here tomorrow. Looking
Yes.
forward to that, along with Bob Stoops, Charlie Strong, Gary Patterson, Jim Grove, trying to get that all in.
Wow, we don't need Max.
I'll be at Guns N' Roses tonight.
Thank you.